Second, sir.
To keep the blackboard, this is what it would be. So we have already discussed Bentham's modern state, what is popularly known as the model of the utilitarian state. In the process of our discussions on Bentham's political thought, focusing specifically on his modern state and utilitarian state, and in our endeavor to understand his political concepts and prescriptions, a very pertinent question that grips us as students of political thought is, should we accept what Bentham has said and state? We have undertaken a detailed study. We have undertaken the study of the foundational concept and human nature. We have undertaken an endeavor to study and understand the essential features of the edifice, the state of Bentham, the structure of the government, the functions of the government, and state-individual relationship. But now the question arises, should we accept what Bentham has said in totality? Or do we find any lacuna, any shortcoming, any deficiency, any logical inconsistency which stand on our way in accepting Bentham in totality? Therefore, it becomes pertinent as students of political thought to subject the Bentham's theory of state to critical scrutiny and analysis. We are not to accept whatever he has said on the face of it in totality. We must scan it, we must subject it to X-ray, scrutinize it, and we must try to find out what lacuna, shortcomings, and logical deficiency or inconsistencies which are contained in his political thought, especially relating to his theory of state. This is the duty of a critical student of political thought. Therefore, it is now our task to subject Bentham's political thought to critical scrutiny, critical assessment. And since we have already discussed it, the answer must come from you. Let me know to what extent you understand. Because unless you understand, it will not be possible for you to undertake it. That is why I emphasize always upon understanding the concept first. Understand what he says. Then only you can criticize it. Then only you can find fault with it. the deficiency or logical inconsistencies in his thinking, and then come to conclusion. There is the way of approaching the political thought. So what are the major defects that may come across? Or should we accept whatever he has said? If the answer is yes, it's all right. There is no point in subjecting it to critical scrutiny. If the answer is no, you must find out the shortcomings in it. So what is the first shortcoming that may come across our mind as students of critical political thought in assessing Bentham's political thought and subjecting it to an extent, a critical scrutiny? What is the first defect? What is the first logical inconsistency? What we are not prepared to accept, both in the foundational concept as well as in the edifice? So, you must respond to this. What is the defect? What is the shortcoming? Where he is wrong?
Sir, Bentham explains human being as selfish being. Human being as selfish being. Man is selfish being. But one cannot say that all men are selfish beings.
Yes.
There are some personalities who are selfless.
Very good. Is it rightly approached? Yes. So what is the problem? All men are not selfish.
Sir.
Some are selfish, but
Yes, sir.
what is the problem then?
Then his foundational concept is wrong.
Why you are not prepared to accept his theory of state, his model state?
Because sir, there is wrong in their foundational concept of human nature.
Yes.
Then the
How it is related to his state? I understand
yes,
that foundation is weak.
yes, sir.
Foundation is defective. But how does it affect the edifice? The foundation of this building may have cracked at number of places. How does it affect this building? You must
collapse.
explain it. Yes. Similarly, the case with Bentham. How Bentham's theory of state, his modern theory of state, is affected by the foundational defect. How is it logically inconsistent? Yes, anyone? You must think, unless you become a thinker, it may become difficult for you to understand the thought of a thinker. You have to become a thinker. And once you understand what this is, when you go deep into it, probably you will forget yourself. This is the charm of idea. You will forget yourself. And you will be a Bentham when you are discussing Bentham. You will feel that you are a Plato when you discuss Plato. You will feel that you are Machiavelli when you discuss Machiavelli's thought. Only when that comes into existence, when that occurs, then only you may feel that you have understood his political thought. What are the defects? Other defects. Is only one defect? Or there are other defects in the foundational concept?
Sir, human nature पे से खाली sentient trait रे ही restrict वाले human beings का attributes रहते हैं और further अलग के attributes
संतुष्ट कर
social
से जो खाली सेंटिएंट बोला बोले तो रोज का ना रहा सेंटिएंट है असुविधा का नाम है ताले से इनको जस्टिफाई करो ना ऑब्जेक्शन तर असुविधा ना तो कौन रोक करो जदि इंडिविजुअल नेचर का सेंटिएंट है ना हाउ डज इट अफेक्ट द स्टेट
Sir, I'm already
why you are not prepared to accept this model?
state the will of the individual का है ना सर किंतु
Yes.
यदि purely sentient ही जब तो समकर will ring consent नहीं
बिल्कुल
करें
नहीं रहेगा भी will the prote man's rogaba will means desire. Sentient hello desire. Social hello desire. Rational hello desire. There must be a will if you are a human being. तो भूल के ना will का प्रश्न है नहीं will तो इस तरह any living human being must have a will consciousness से consciousness no desire आस्ते desire no demands आस्ते will is the product of your consciousness and will gives rise to your desires desires give rise to your demands मत एक करता है yes
You are concerned with the physical awareness of the human.
so what
So there
is it not true are you not concerned with your own physical happiness
yes, sir, but there
तो तुम्हारे physical happiness के तुम्हें जन lunch खाओ सा dinner खाओ सा तुम्हारे खाओ सा कितना ले तुम्हारे तो खाओ सा तुम्हारे physical happiness ले ना तुम्हारे पेट पूरी चाहिए so you are concerned is it not true सब पता नहीं करेगा से
sir, lucky that you are
क्या करेगी खाना की mental तो इतना नहीं तुम्हारा mind is conditioned by your will is based upon your characterized by your physical appearance तो क्या मैं भूल कर देगा yes
So we mentioned man is essentially sentient beings.
Yes.
So the two sentences mentioned with pleasure and pain.
हाँ
तो
नहीं sentient को जो ना physical again sensation sensibility जब experience को जो sensation sensibilities pleasurable sensation भी होते painful sensation भी होते most of the time वो चल रहा painful sensation आता chicken खाई रहा pleasurable sensation so sensation जुड़े टाइप का है
तो सर से mentioned कि man is solitary.
हाँ
So he do not think for others.
yes
So same first of all same mentality का
उसमें क्या कहना रहता है कारण से what are the adverse consequences of their concern कहाँ बोल के तो क्षतिटा केना होउछि कहाँ क्षति होउछि तुम तुम्हारे विषय भावलो से तार विषय भावलो तर क्षति का कारण कहीं भी नहीं सकती सेटा तो भावलो नहीं वर्ल्ड के अप्रोच करू छो किंतु आगे डीपर भीतर की है
So society is built on respect. So your life is not about pleasure and pain.
society is built on respect how the insan को
I mean, life is not about pleasure and pain. I mean, salvation for others, the well-being of society.
what is the end of life कहो
तुम बुरा है
मेरे नाम को से लाइफ का एंड हो छे फिजिकल हैप्पीनेस तुम्हारे अनुसार कैंडा एंड हो है तो सिर्फ सब क्रिटिसाइज करो become a thinker and say something suggest something propose something give a new model but whatever you say must be accepted by the intellectuals the mankind yes
annual electron কথা কই
এটা পছর কথা পয়লা ফাউন্ডেশন দিয়ে এটা তো স্টেট কি করে পয়লা ফাউন্ডেশন তো তুমি অ্যানালাইজ করো হাউ ইট ইজ উইক
Sir, Bentham explained that pleasure and pain has differentiation on the basis of quantity, not quality. But the fact is that it matters on
so how it
quality.
is related to human nature तुम तो आउट एस्पेक्ट के जाओ वो है ह्यूमन नेचर के अटैक करो ह्यूमन नेचर तो क्वांटिफिकेशन ऑफ पेन प्लेजर आसे सेंसेशन आसे बेसिक के अटैक करो
So physical pleasure is always nice.
काना सुन
But sir, କି concept wise technology ତାଙ୍କର matter exist କରୁଛି or human exist କରୁଛି.
So what is according to you the end of life then? तुम कहो, come forward clearly. तुम्हारे अनुसार क्या है? What is the end of life? Bentham तो कहूँ physical pleasure. तुम्हारे अनुसार क्या? तुम्हें जहाँ कहो how that is to be realized. तेरे तरीका बताओ. खाली कहने नहीं.
Salvation is a well-being of others अच्छे.
नहीं. नहीं किसी तुम्हें अन्यमान का चिंता कर.
हमको सोसाइटी
फाउंडेशन के लिए
हमें सोसाइटी जेतु हम सोसाइटी में रोचो हमको समस्त को नहीं
काहे कितना अन्य
समस्त को नहीं की चलवा ले पड़वा
काहे दिन why answer people always investigate in the question of why for every concern
सेल्फ हेल्प माने सब जगह सेल्फी से प्रोपोर्शन वाले कॉन्फ्लिक्ट अराइज है सोसाइटी यदि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट अराइज है
काहे की कोऑपरेशन करो तुम गोटे इंडिविजुअल आउ गोटे इंडिविजुअल को कोऑपरेट करबा तार भल चिंता करबा काहे तार बेसिकली लाइक नो काहे की व्हाई
सेने का बेसिक नीड्स को फिल है प्रोपोर्शन
तुम काहे दिली मोरल हबो तुम काहे दिली ह्यूमन हबो आउटे मु हिंट्स दूची
देखो सब जिन मुई पाई पाई मैंने मानना ना जैसे मुई चावल प्रोडक्ट को जब मते भी दाल दरकार सब जिन दरकार तो तार लगे मते
अरे तुम नेचर काना हेबर कथा जे तुम अन्य मानकर भल चिंता करबो काना हेबर कथा बेंथम तो भूल कहूची मैं तो सेल्फिश बोली कहूची किंतु तुमर अनुसार मनुष्य काना हेबर कथा जे अन्य मानकर भल चिंता करबो यस and that rationality is the essence of man. मनुष्य के rationality द्वारा ही man करबो. And what is the rationality? Again, the question. How do you define rationality? कहाँ जिनिस किसे है?
ability to decide what is wrong and right.
How you will find out what is wrong, what is right? Yes. केंद्र में तुम
Right in our consciousness
तुम केंद्र भल केंद्र खराब बोले केंद्र जानी पारो
consciousness
कॉन्शियसनेस नु कॉन्शियसनेस बोले तुम मसाटी भाबरे जानी पारो बेटा कॉन्शियसनेस चेतना रैशनैलिटी का चेतना नु यस टच करू छ जस्ट जाऊ छ कॉन्शियसनेस जाने I am stimulating you. By raising these questions, I stimulate your thinking. I induce you, persuade you to think. Yes. Let me start this. When the subject becomes political thought, on its theory of states, the moral state, including the foundational concept of human nature, as well as the edifice of structure and functions of the state, we may come across a number of glaring, serious shortcomings, lacunae, deficiency, logical inconsistencies, and unacceptable propositions and prescriptions. We are not prepared to accept what he says. Unacceptable propositions. He is giving a number. And the first defect may be traced to his concept of human nature, the foundational concept. This is critical assessment. And what he says on human nature? Man is essentially a sentient being. This is the basic assumption, fundamental postulate of Bentham on human nature. Man is a sentient being. A physical body only and exclusively, emphasize upon the word, only and exclusively, has no soul. Bentham is not prepared to accept the presence of the soul in human body. He says that man is only and only a body, physical body, a body which is made of blood, flesh and bones. That is what he means by sentient or sentience. And because he is exclusively a physical body, it is through this physical body he receives sensations, through the sensory organs of the body. And the sensations may be of two broad types of kinds. One is pleasurable sensation or painful sensations. These two types of sensations are received. And man always desires to get more and more pleasurable sensations and tries to avoid painful sensations. This is human nature, he says. And this tendency of the individual to be more and more concerned with acquisition and enjoyment of physical happiness and to avoid physical pain makes him a utilitarian being. This is the utility for the individual. What is useful for the individual? Pleasurable sensation. Physical happiness is utility for him. So utility is to be understood in hedonistic sense of the term. Utility is therefore felicity. Felicity means hedonism. Physical happiness. So every human being always, according to Bentham, always tends to acquire more and more felicity or hedonism or physical happiness. Therefore, he is an utilitarian being, he is an hedonistic being, and because he is exclusively body concerned, he is selfish. Therefore, he is atomistic. Therefore, he is a solitary being. This is what he says on human nature. But Scott, the concept of human nature is found to be highly unrealistic. It is an abstract concept. Yes, I say. It is an incomplete concept. It is a deviating concept. See here, we may find out three objectionable attributes here, so far as this concept of human nature is concerned. It is an abstract, highly unrealistic, unpragmatic. It is incomplete. It doesn't present a coherent picture of human nature. It is deviating. It is a very mean concept, sordid concept, deplorable concept, very low concept. So these are the three, we will notice here, three major adverse attributes. But Bentham says that man is sentient. How it is an abstract concept, unrealistic, unpragmatic. Bentham says that he has adopted or employed the inductive method of study. He is a pragmatic thinker. He starts with this assumption. He is not concerned with philosophy, fiction, or imagination or speculation. He is concerned with observation and experiences concerning human nature. His method of study is the inductive method of observation and method of experiences. He says that man is a sentient being. It doesn't fit with his claim that he is a scientific political thinker, pragmatic political thinker, because his concept becomes an abstract concept. Such an individual is not found to exist anywhere on this world. Bentham's individual is not found to exist anywhere. Such an individual of Bentham is not to be found in reality. Therefore, it is an abstract concept. Why? Because he says that man is 100% selfish and sentient. In reality, what is found? Man is a combination of both body and soul. That is found present in the individual's soul aspect of life. It is because of the soul that the individual continues to live and become active and dynamic. This body lives and works so long as the soul is in it. The moment soul goes out, this body becomes a dead body. How can you therefore deny to accept the presence of soul in the body of the individual? Without the soul, the individual body becomes a dead body, inactive body. We are able to use our sensory organs, eyes, nose, ears, throat, tongue, skin, etc. Through which sensations we receive, yes. But who receives the sensation? It is the soul, not the body. Body is the medium. Body is a mechanism through which, through the sensory organs, the soul receives sensations. When the individual dies, you show him some picture, can he see it? You beat the drums, can he hear it? No. You can hear, you can see, you can eat, you can smell, you can feel the touch, so long as the soul is in the body. Therefore, when Bentham says that man is exclusively sentient, but and he denies the existence of the soul in the individual, he is highly unrealistic. This is the defect of Bentham. Without the soul, body has no existence. Soul resides in the body. Soul receives the sensations. Who receives pain? Who receives pleasure? When you see a beautiful thing through your eyes, it is your soul which becomes happy. When you eat something, not your stomach feels happy. Who feels happy, satisfied? Your soul. This is the reality. So how can we deny the existence of soul in the body of the individual? And therefore Bentham is wrong here. We are not prepared to accept what he says. It is an abstract concept, on a realistic concept, on a pragmatic concept. At the same time, it is an incomplete concept, half concept. It doesn't present a complete picture of a man because it denies the existence of soul. On the basis of the assumption, fundamental assumption that man is essentially a sentient being, what he says, man is a selfish being because he is always body oriented. But what we find in reality, all individuals are not exclusively selfish. Every individual is found to be a mixture of both selfishness and selflessness in different degrees, in different proportions. Some are more selfish, some are less selfish. Some are more selfless, some are less selfless. But selfishness and selflessness are found to be combined together in the psychology of man, in the nature of man. Yes, we agree, in different proportions, in different quantities, in different degrees, in different levels. We also know that some individuals, because in reality what we find, a number of individuals are found to have rendered activities for caring for others, for doing good to others, selflessly. Take for instance, Gopavantu in Odisha. Take for instance, Mother Teresa in Christian religion in India. Take for instance, Mahatma Gandhi. Take for instance, Subhash Bose. Take for instance, Aravinda. Take for instance, Vivekananda. These are great individuals who have rendered services to mankind selflessly. But how can you say that all individuals are selfish? 100% selfish? Is Bentham not wrong? How can you accept such a proposition? Therefore, Bentham is unable to present a complete picture of man. His concept of human nature is completely incomplete. It is not only inconsistent with reality, it is also incomplete in its presentation. At the same time, what we know, his concept of human nature is a debasing concept. It debases the nature of man. Because this concept of man, of Jeremy Bentham, places man to the level of a beast. Why? Because Bentham says that the only goal of the individual's life is physical happiness. It is the greatest happiness at the end of human life. Because man is exclusively sentient being, physical being, he only desires to have highest amount of, greatest amount of physical happiness for himself only. If we say that the only aim, the highest aim, the ultimate aim of human life is his own physical happiness, how can we differentiate man, distinguish man, a human being, from animals, from the beasts? Bentham's concept of human nature therefore reduces man, a human being, to the level of a beast or an animal. Only beasts or animals are concerned with physical happiness. Human beings are not. Human beings are the highest creations in nature. Therefore, the aim of human life is not physical happiness. The aim of human life is moral happiness, spiritual development. So the individual nature has gifted man the faculty of conscience, rationality in him. And man uses this faculty of conscience, gifted by nature, to make a distinction between what he should do, what he should not do as a human being. A human being is therefore expected to do good to others. He must care for others. He is not expected to harm others, exploit others. A human being is therefore to practice in his thinking and activities the values of liberty, equality and fraternity. That is the end of human life. To become a true human being in the true sense of the term. A good human being in the true sense of the term. Therefore, the end of human life is not merely physical happiness. To eat food and sleep. No. The aim of human life is to be good to others. Moral development, spiritual development is the essence of human life. Otherwise, there will be no difference between a man and a dog. All living creatures in this world are concerned with physical happiness, yes, but man is the highest creation of nature, and man is distinct and different from the rest of the animal creations because of the presence of rationality with conscience in him to think what is good, what is bad, and to undertake activities for realizing an objectively good life. and to be good to others, to be moral to others. And there lies the essence of humanity. Otherwise, there will be no difference. Ahara nidra maithuna samana sandhi vasuhi narana says your Shastra. Ahara nidra bhaya maithuna namaskar. The need for food, ahara, nidra, to sleep, bhaya, to be afraid of others, maithuna, to be engaged in sexual activities and to procreate, produce children. These are the common tendencies for every living creatures, but human beings are different. They have physical body, no doubt. They also need food, clothes, shelter, warmth. Yes, we admit. But a human being is not identical with the animals or the dogs or the cats. He has rationality, he has conscience. He has a soul in him. So development of the soul, moral development, spiritual development is the ultimate aim of human. And here Bentham says, it debases human nature. It presents a very deplorable picture of human nature. Sordid, very mean picture of human nature. It reduces man to the level of beast, and we are not able to accept what this is. Certainly we are human beings, not dogs or cats. Therefore, the objective of human life must not be acquisition and enjoyment of greatest physical happiness, but attainment of highest physical happiness, the highest moral happiness, spiritual happiness. So these are glaring defects, unacceptable propositions in Bentham's concept of human beings. The foundation is there weak, extremely weak. Even if he says he is pragmatic, he has employed the inductive method of study. Again, this concept is found to be unpragmatic, rather product of his own speculation and imagination. He imagines, he speculates, he thinks. This expresses his personal prejudices and biases. These are not this doesn't represent a universal picture of nature. Foundation. It is on this concept of human nature that Bentham identifies that the ultimate aim of human life is acquisition of greatest physical happiness. Every individual calculates it, he says, on the basis of a philosophical calculus. So Bentham gives us that pericyclic calculation says that it is present in man's mind, in man's psychology. And man calculates amount of physical happiness or pain of an action before he undertakes it with reference to the 6 variables of the pericyclic calculus. There are 6 variables. One is intensity, duration, certainty, propinquity or remoteness, fecundity, and purity. These are the 6 variables of 6 factors. And this pericyclic calculus is based upon 2 basic premises. The first one is sensations differ in quantity. quantitative differentiation of sensations. And the second one is sensations are commensurate. These are the two basic premises of the peristaltic force. Bentham is exclusively concerned with measurement, quantitative measurement of sensations, whether pleasurable or painful. He says that the aim of man's life is attainment of greatest amount of physical happiness, not pain. So he calculates the amount of pain, amount of pleasure that he is likely to obtain on undertaking an activity. So the individual proceeds according to Bentham with the basic assumption, so far as the Helsinki calculus is concerned, that sensations differ in quantity only, not in quality. Bentham is not prepared to accept qualitative differentiation in sensations, whether pleasurable or painful. This is the first assumption. So every individual is in search of greatest amount of or greatest quantity of physical happiness. And the second assumption is, premise is, sensations are commensurable. They can be measured quantitatively. They can be weighed, calculated, physically. Niktir wasn't doing. This is what he says. This is commensurable. Can be quantitatively measured or calculated with the help of these 6 variables of peristaltic happiness. But again, so far as the first assumption of the peristaltic calculus is concerned, that sensations differ only in quantity. This is an unacceptable proposition. We are not prepared to accept it in reality. What we find in reality, sensations, whether pleasurable or painful, they differ also in quality. There may be higher type of pleasure, lower type of pleasure. Higher type of pain, lower type of pain. We get highest type of pain when our father dies, or any of our relative dies, near relatives dies. But that pain is not equal to the pain that we get when we get mosquito bite. So pleasures are pains. Pains are higher type of pain. Pains also are lower types of pains. They differ in quality. Similarly, pleasures also differ in quality. When you take food, we get pleasure, yes. But that pleasure is not equal to or same or similar to the pleasure that we get when we do some charitable activities, do to good to others. When we read poetry, when we read an academic literature, we get some type of higher type of pleasure than the pleasure that we get on drinking wine. The pleasures are different. There is higher type of pleasure, lower type of pleasure. When you do social service, we get higher type of pleasure, personal satisfaction we get. Then when we engage in criminal activities, pleasurable sensations, painful sensations, satisfaction of the individual are found to be different in quality. So when Bentham says that there is only quantitative differentiation, sensations differ only in quantity, is wrong. Is unpractical. Yes, alongside we accept it partly. Yes, they differ also in quantity, but they also differ in quality as well. there will be found higher type of pleasure, lower type of pleasure. And the aim of man is, a human being is, to search for and to attain higher type of pleasure, not lower type of pleasure. Why? Because we search for high type of pleasure that is in conformity with our true nature. Our true nature is our human nature. Humanity in us, rationality in us, conscience in us, morality in us, ethics in us. Determine our true nature. We are not equal to the beast, the cats or the dogs. We are higher living beings, highest creation of nature. Therefore, we should not think ourselves equal with dogs or cats. The objective of life is attainment of moral happiness, not merely physical happiness. Physical happiness is a secondary to moral happiness. Moral happiness is the primary happiness of every human. And that primary happiness, moral happiness, can be obtained through moral sources. So, source of pleasure is important. Higher pleasure can be obtained from a higher source. Lower pleasure can be obtained from a lower source. Drinking wine is a lower source of pleasure. And probably you are acquainted with this phenomenon in the hospital. If randomly a checking will be done, in most of the rooms you will find bottles of wine. That is a very low source of pleasure. But when you do good to others, charity to others, when you help others, your humanitarianism comes out. And that is the higher source of pleasure. And that must be the aim of your life. But Bentham is not prepared to accept it. What he says, quantity of pleasure being equal, Pushpin is as good as poetry, he says. That we already discussed. Quantity, he is concerned with quantity. Quantity of pleasure being equal, Pushpin is as good as poetry. Reading poetry and you get pleasure, and playing the game of gambling, jua karo, and then pleasure pass. No, we are not prepared to accept it. These are not same. Pushpin and poetry are totally different sources. Poetry is a higher source of pleasure. Pushpin is a lower source of pleasure. Drinking wine is a lower source of pleasure. Humanitarian activities is a higher source of pleasure. So it is source of pleasure which matters us most as human beings, not the physical happiness to be derived from lower source. And that is why he is a disciple, he is a student. John Stuart Mill says, criticize yourself. It is better to be a fool dissatisfied. It is better to be a Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. It is better to be a man dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. So some state of dissatisfaction is better than some state of satisfaction, he says. Mill says. Because John Stuart Mill has experienced both types of pleasures, higher pleasure and lower pleasure, and he has become convinced that no, a human being must search for higher source of pleasure, not lower source. So he says that it is better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. Socrates is the man of knowledge here. This is important. So the happiness of a man of knowledge is certainly better than the happiness of a fool. Happiness of a man is certainly better than the happiness of a pig. We are not gusri, we are not pigs. खाली जहाँ पाएगा खाई दूँगा और खाली सूत दूँगा. No, that must not be the end of the world. So the source of pleasure which is important, not the quantity of pleasure or the lower source of pleasure from which the quantity is derived. And once we admit, once we say, once we become convinced that pleasures differ in quality, and the aim of man is to search for and to attain higher type of pleasures, this theory of Bentham, the foundational concept of Bentham, states nullified, cancelled, unaccepted. See, so far as this basic premise is concerned. And second one is sensations are commensurable. Yes, let us agree for that. That we can quantify pleasure or pain, measure them. And he prescribes us the physical calculus with the 6 variables: intensity, duration, certainty, probability, frequency, and period. But these variables are vague variables, not exact. How can we measure intensity of pain or pleasure? Bentham has not given any scale of measurement. How can we measure intensity? This is the depth of feeling. How can we measure the feeling of an individual? Bentham is silent. How deeply you feel pain or she feels happiness, how can I measure? It is a subjective consideration. Even the person concerned cannot measure how deeply he feels it, how intense is the feeling, and make a comparison. So this intensity, this variable of intensity is concerned with your perception, and that is a quality, not a quantity. Yes, duration can be measured in terms of time: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 days, 5 days, 1 year, like that. But what about certainty? How can you measure certainty? How can we be sure that our expectations would occur or would happen? That the net consequence would be pleasure or pain? How can we be sure? Bentham is silent. How can propinquity and remoteness? Yes, whether it immediately will occur or whether it will occur after a distance of time, we can measure it. But what about frequency and purity? These variables can never be measured exactly, can never be quantified. So some of these variables which includes under the philosophic calculus are qualities. Some are quantities. Quantity can be measured, but never quantity. This is the problem. So this philosophic calculus of Bentham, which he prescribes to individual to measure exactly the quantity of pleasure or pain, is a vague scale. It is a vague calculation mechanism. It cannot enable a human being to calculate exactly, accurately the amount of pleasure and pain of the senses. This is the fact. So Bentham, on the basis of this foundational concept of human nature, in which he includes or prescribes this philosophic calculus from measurement of the greatest amount of pleasure to be obtained by an individual as the motivating factor for human action and activity. It traces the origin of state. It traces the origin of state to what? To hedonism, to utility, to greatest physical happiness of man that characterizes human nature. State originates according to him because of the utilitarian hedonistic need of the individual. But the question arises, how can society and state be formed by the individual who is egoistic, selfish, 100%? How can society be formed? Bentham says man is 100% selfish, atomistic, single, isolated, solitary. This is what he says. Such an individual lacks social instinct, he says. He doesn't have social instinct. He doesn't have even rational instinct in him. He has only the utilitarian instinct, hedonistic instinct. So he has no social instinct. Bentham's man or individual has no social instinct. How can such an individual, atomistic, solitary, single, isolated individual who is 100% selfish, would decide to cooperate with others, live with others, work with others, and harm the society and state? This is logical inconsistency, defect. Logically, Bentham is wrong, therefore. He says that because of situational compulsion for satisfaction of his hedonistic needs, he cooperates. But why? Why such an individual who is 100% selfish and single, who is not prepared by his nature to cooperate with others, would sacrifice his own nature, go against his own nature? Then where is the nature of man as painted by Bentham? Bentham is wrong here. On one hand, he says that man is atomistic. At the same time, he says that he forms the society. These two concepts that do not reconcile with one another. If man is 100% selfish, without any social instinct or rational instinct in him, a society can never be formed, a state can never be established. Because cooperation is not possible among human beings. The individual will not go against his own nature and suddenly become cooperative, gregarious. No. If he is selfish, he will remain selfish always. He cannot trust others. Cooperation is possible when there is inter-individual trust. Every individual believes every other individual. That is interpersonal trust. But Bentham's man doesn't trust anyone. He lives a solitary life, single life, atomistic life. He lacks in social instinct. There is no rationality in him. There is no conscience in him. He is not prepared to think what is good or what is bad morally or socially. Such an individual will certainly will not go against his own nature, and therefore formation of society and state can never be possible. If we accept this concept of human nature. So original state is found to be a logical contradiction of a Bentham's concept of human nature and the genesis of the state and nature of state. There is a logical contradiction. He is logically incorrect. He is logically not at all sound. He lacks in logic. Moreover, when a state is established, what he says? A government is instituted. The government's duty is to make laws, public policies, on the basis of the will of the people, because it defines law as the expression of will in the form of a command. So the function of the government as the agent of the state is to make laws and public policies and to implement them, to enable the people of the state to realize greatest physical happiness. And what is the guiding principle of law making or policy making? Bentham says, greatest happiness of the greatest number of people. This is also a highly illogical proposition. Greatest happiness of the greatest number. What does it mean by it? This is the principle of probability, the basis of probability, the guiding premise of probability. For a policy. The principle of greatest happiness, physical happiness of the greatest number of people, majority of people. Such a description of Bentham that the state and the government must make laws on the basis of the principle of greatest happiness of the greatest number stands in contradiction with his concept of man. What he says, man's ultimate aim is acquisition of greatest physical happiness for him, only and exclusive. But he says, he here ignores the greatest happiness of each and prescribes the greatest happiness of the greatest number, majority of the people. So what about the greatest happiness of the minority of the population, who will not agree with the opinion of the majority? Their greatest happiness is sacrificed. They have no place in as member of the society and state. So Jeremy Bentham is completely against the interest and rights and status and position of the minority of the population, the dissenting minority who do not agree with the view or opinion of the majority. If you do not agree with the majority, you have no rights, you have no status, you are totally ignored. Because the government will always subserve the greatest happiness of the greatest number. So the greatest happiness of the individual, the dissenting individual, is sacrificed. He speaks of the individual's greatest happiness, but prescribes greatest happiness of the greatest number. These two principles, propositions are contradictory. There is no logic in it. Rather, what would happen in reality? Bentham champions the principle of majoritarianism, collective majoritarianism. This is the principle of majoritarianism. Is in favor of the majority of the population, not in favor of the rights and interests of the minorities. Here minorities are not the social minority, numerical minority. Minority who disagrees with the view of the majority. So when you make use of the term minority, do not always mean that it is a religious minority, no. Or social minority, caste minority, or tribal minority, no. Not here the concept here. This is numerical minority who dissent from the views and opinions of the majority population. If you do not agree, you have no rights, you have no interest, you are totally ignorant. You must obey, otherwise you will be jailed, you will be suppressed, you will be exploited, you will be punished. Because laws are made on the basis of this principle of majority. So Bentham's concept of greatest happiness of the greatest number of people as the principle of law and public policy making opens up the floodgate for majority tyranny, majority despotism, governmental despotism, governmental authoritarianism, or collective majoritarianism. It is a democratic state, yes, but what type of democracy it is? It is an authoritarian, it is an authoritarian state. It is an authoritarian government made by the majority of the people to persecute the minority of the population. This is the conclusion of Bentham's theory of state. Moreover, what he says, the aim of law, aim of public policies is to provide greatest happiness of the greatest number of people. Here, greatest happiness means not the moral happiness, but physical happiness. So the aim of the government in law and public policy making is material development of the majority of people. The government is not concerned about the rights of the minority or interest of the minorities. So the government is exclusively concerned with the economic development of the majority of the people. It is not concerned with their spiritual development. It is not concerned with their moral development. So what would be the likely consequence? This society and state of Bentham cannot move on the path of it cannot proceed on the path of development of culture and civilization. Culture and civilization can never be developed in such a state of Bentham, because it is exclusively concerned with material development, and material development is not the true end of human life. The true end of human life is moral development. Only one moral development takes place. Then only culture and civilization of the population of state would develop. Therefore, Bentham's theory of state is antagonistic to development of culture and civilization. And therefore, it becomes very difficult for us to accept all these propositions that come out in the theory of German, the theories of the modern state. These are some glaring deficiencies, defects, logical defects. But despite such decline, Bentham is acknowledged by the people of this world, by the intellectuals and students of political science as one of the greatest political thinkers of the world. One of the greatest. And he is given the status as the father of representative republican democracy. Is the father is acknowledged as the father of representative republican democracy, because the principles of modern democratic state are the principles as prescribed by the Bentham in the theory of utilitarian state. Bentham is eventually first political thinker to identify and prescribe the principles of modern democratic state. And we have already discussed it. That he is the legislature that he prescribes is composed of people's representatives. The law-making body of the state is composed of people's representatives elected through periodic elections, annual elections. On the basis of the principle of universal right of franchise and secret ballot. These are democratic principles of election that champions the values of political liberty and popularity. He asserts the sovereignty of the individual. People are sovereign. The government is not sovereign. Sovereignty resides in the people. People do not relinquish or give up or abdicate their sovereignty. When the state is formed and the government is instituted, they merely delegate their sovereign power for 1 year to the government. At the end of every election, after a year, people exercise their sovereignty directly. But for a year, in the inter-election period, the government performs the function of lawmaking and law execution on the basis of the will of the people. The concept of a responsible government, responsive government, the principle of government being based upon the consent of the governed, all these democratic principles are the contributions of them. So the principles and values of modern democratic state have been designed by Jeremy Bentham, prescribed by Jeremy Bentham, and today all the democratic states of the world follow Bentham's principles and prescriptions. So the state is a republican state. The government is elected by the people. Head of the government and state, they are elected by the people. People are sovereign. Therefore, the state is a republican state. Government is a republican government. At the same time, it is not a direct democracy, but a representative democracy. And the members of the legislature who are elected by the people are responsible to the people annually when elections are held. No doubt, this prescription of annual elections for parliament is certainly not a feasible proposition of the Bentham. So modern democratic states have changed it. They have made it periodic elections. Some democratic states have made it 5 years, some have made it 4 years. Why? Because if every year elections would be conducted, it would involve a huge expenses from the exchequer, from the taxpayers. Money would be spent, large amount of money, for conducting elections. At the same time, there would be no continuity in public policy if government would be changed after every 2 years. Therefore, modern democratic states have not accepted this proposal of Bentham for annual elections. But all other prescriptions, the principle of secret ballot, the principle of universal franchise, the principle of elections, the principle of people's sovereignty, the values of political equality, political liberty, all these have been, and the principle of responsible and responsive government have been borrowed by modern democratic states from the conceptualization of their idea. And herein lies his greatness. That is why he is acknowledged as the father of representative republican democracy. And this is one of the reasons why, even after his death, he died in 1832. His dead body is preserved at present in British Museum. This is the importance of this great. Today we are proud of calling ourselves as citizens of the democratic state, and we have borrowed this democratic form of governmental state from them, with necessary modifications, of course. And herein lies the greatness of this great political movement. Despite so many lacunae and logical inconsistencies in his character. With this, we conclude. Thoughts again, questions of interest. इंडक्टिव नुहे से बहुत जन इंडक्टिव बोली कि इंडक्टिव नो
इंडक्टिव प्लस साइंटिफिकली हमें सोर्स के साइंटिफिकली हमें ताके प्रूव करने पड़ता है किंतु व्हेन इज द फिजिकल बॉडी
but we can feel it, we can feel the presence of the soul,
that something
because without the presence of the soul in human body, this is the evidence, this body becomes a dead body. We are not able to experience sensations and sensibilities if soul goes out of this body.
साइंस ऑक्सीजन কথা বলা
साइंस लेकिन सोर्स के तो ऐसा नहीं हो रहा तो से बेसिस से बेंथम इंडक्टिव
Yeah, science accept नहीं कर रहा, किंतु he is not practical, he is not pragmatic, we say. से कौन से observation experiences basis पे लिखो चीज़, वो चीज़. किंतु what type of observation he has made? We don't accept it. He says to be inductive in his approach, but his observations are found to go against the reality. Here we are not concerned with the scientific principles of factualism, causalism, objectivism. Here we are concerned with observation and experiences. Through who is the thinker or Bentham, he has collected information and he has written his conception unit. So what type of observation he has made? His observation is therefore defective. Yes, sir.
Sir, from sir, body is a medium.
Yes.
Then sir, soul टा कुछ primary thing है ना sir?
This is the first thing in the body. Who experiences? The whole experience. Body experience. Body कुछ. Central nervous system कुछ है. तुम central nervous system कुछ से body नहीं करवा. मुझे तो कोई ना touch कर देगा. ये experience बना. ये तो body कुछ. कितनी जानो सब.
Then sir, body मतलब either or soul is body.
अरे nerve से
Present sir.